Hey everyone, and welcome back to 360 Sports. We have a really special episode today. We're talking F1, or as the boys like to say, we're talking wheel. I'm your host, Marina, alongside Christina, Sydney, and Parker. Guys, I want to jump straight into it. We had a crazy weekend. Jeddah, talk me through qualifying. I want to know what you thought about the Lando Norris crash and the implications it's going to have. Sydney, I'm going to start with you because you had an immediate reaction.
Yeah. Well, obviously we saw Lando obviously had his crash. That was a huge mistake. I mean, I think it's shown Lando's having some mistakes under pressure.
I feel like he's a little nervous, especially because Piastri's performing so consistently at such a high level.
But who's not going to make mistakes under pressure? Everybody's going to do it.
A world champion?
Oh, wow.
So
but he's not yet.
But if he wants
to be a world champion, and to be a world champion, you have to beat a world champion. And he's not even doing that, let alone beating his own teammate.
And I like something you said yesterday about him being the hunter and not the hunted. And I want to bring it back to that he is more comfortable being the hunted and he is better suited to being the hunted.
Absolutely.
And the second that he's being the hunter, which he was proving to be in the other qualifying sessions, that he lost it, obviously, in this one.
Yeah. I think Jeddah specifically, too, is really a track where the free air means everything. And so as soon as you're stuck behind someone, it's game over. But the crash specifically, it was a lapse, it was a mistake. How far did the implications go? How far mentally? Because Lando's a driver that he says a lot about his mental health and stuff. He's one of those that Max will just brush his head whatever, I don't care. And Oscar's like that too, and which are his main championship people. Lando, not so much. So
I think it could have some implications, because if everyone you race against is kind of like a robot and they are locked in on I'm going to win this, especially a younger driver is performing so well in the same team. I know I would feel pressure as an emotional person, so I could I can't even imagine what strain that's going to cause on the team.
Yeah, I think it just kind of shows the resilience that you saw Oscar have and come back. You really haven't seen Oscar kind of go into this defeated state recently. Yeah. When stuff happens, he doesn't really fall into that, and you see Lando do that. And it's really unfortunate that it happens because with the nature of the sport, you don't have time to recollect yourself. Yeah. We just came off of a triple header, and thankfully they have a week to get back into it, but you don't have time to sit there and kind of wallow with yourself. And the comments that he obviously made in the media and stuff, you don't really have time to sit there and settle on that. You kind of got to pick yourself up and keep going.
Absolutely. One more thing I want to mention about qualifying before we move into the race. Lance Stroll set a very interesting record this weekend. 75 Q1 eliminations, most ever.
But are we surprised?
No. But I think it's just because...
it's Lance
Stroll. How do I put this? Yeah,
are we surprised that he's still here and doing this? I think is what are we talking about.
And I think that's why he has his record. Because anyone else who's had 75 Q1 eliminations
wouldn't be here anymore.
Long gone.
Who was it before? I want to say
K-Mag.
That would be a good guess.
Because I think
Hulk
used to.
Yeah.
I
feel better we also take note of it more because of the role his family plays in his career. We're quick to be
yeah,
of course.
Look at the number of we're very quick to judge and hate a little bit.
Can we also jump to the fact that he has more points than Alonso at the moment?
Yes.
That Alonso has not scored a point yet this season, and Stroll has scored in 2 races so far this year, and Alonso has not scored.
Alonso wasn't even in the standings for the first 2 races.
He's still at 0.
He's
in the standings.
It's crazy. Let's move into the race. Alonso also didn't have a great race, but I want to talk about turn 1. Turn 1, lap 1. Now, one of the things I do want to bring up before we get into anything is Carlos Sainz. Williams is doing a new podcast now, and Carlos was talking about but this season with Carlos and they did a little with Logan, but not as much. Logan Sargent. Anyways, they are doing the podcast, and Carlos is talking about, I really just think that there's only 2 lines going into turn 1 every race, and so that's why you're seeing less accidents. We did see, I don't want to call it a collision, but a little bit of an incident going into turn 1. What did you make of it? It was a 5-second penalty for Max.
I think he overtook off the track.
Yeah.
You get a penalty if you don't give that back. So I think it was deserved.
It back too. I feel like he definitely could have made that up.
And Max, he's not going to give it back. Though that's
no situation where he was gonna. I just think obviously it's a lot harder to argue. No, he pushed me off, and then at that point just accept that if you give it back,
Yeah.
you can make it up.
Yeah.
Because it's such a hard thing. Because even Max saying he forced me off, and then you have Oscar coming right over the radio being he was never going to make that
Yeah.
corner. But at the same time, then that brings up the argument for saying he was never going to make that corner. Should there have been some room left for him to move? Because then if you look at like the onboards, there was nowhere for Max to go either, other than off.
Yeah. As a Max fan, I agree with the penalty. I think it was valid.
Yes.
I do think that Oscar didn't leave him any room. However, I think the problem that we're having, I just shouldn't say we, but I think what the problem that Max fans are having, and even Red Bull and Max himself, is that there's no consistency. Because in my opinion, Lando did exactly the same thing in, taking the outside, and Max forced him wide last year, and Max got the penalty for forcing him wide, whereas Oscar left no space on the track. I get it, it's his corner, but there's certain things that in F1 is kind of like almost like a gentleman's rule. So I think the penalty is valid. I will also say that I spent the entire race saying this is on purpose. There's they chose not to give that position back. I think they knew they were going to get the penalty anyways. It's Max Verstappen. He's always going to get the penalty, but I think they did it on purpose. I think they thought that it was better to have the track position, which proved, I think, true. I don't think Max was going to win that race regardless, but.
No. Yeah, and I think the fact that we saw after the race, we saw him pissed off after the race on the podium because
really rare for Max.
Really rare.
I was like, where is he going?
But you saw him because you even heard that the FIA talked to him right before the podium.
Yeah,
which first of all, that's uncalled for. That should not have happened.
Walked up as Max was taking off his helmet, and I went, "What are you doing here?
That's crazy.
Go away!"
Yeah.
And just like you just saw his reactions, and it's like, is that called for? Because it's like honestly, the way that the media was acting, the way that the FIA was acting, it's like that's just you don't want that to happen in a sport. It's like it doesn't become a sport that's you want to watch anymore when it becomes so media and like power hungry driven.
Yeah, because right now we're controlling the narrative, not the drivers, and I think it should be the other way around.
Yeah.
They should be able to tell us their side of the story, whereas Max was like, I can't say anything because I'm just going to get fined 10,000 euros. Like, that's ridiculous. 10,000 euros for me to say I don't agree with the penalty.
Yeah, because he's on his second strike because they last 3 years.
I think
That's
also
crazy.
like deters a lot of viewers
If you
is
got
you
it.
see like the discrepancies and like, okay, one driver does the exact same thing. Like if George Russell does something, like he won't get penalized as heavily as like another driver.
Yeah.
So I think that also can make like viewers be like, why would I watch this if nothing, like it doesn't really matter. They're just gonna like ultimately kind of favor drivers.
I liked the rumors at the beginning of the year because whatever his name is of the FIA president, he can get reelected. Hopefully not. And they were like, Susie Wolf run for president. And I went, yes.
I would love
I don't care if that means Toto Wolff has to retire. Toto Wolff, go be a hab. Let Susie Wolf be president.
All right. We should probably move on, but I do want to quickly mention Oscar is now leading the Drivers' Championship. We mentioned being the hunted, not the hunter. I think that favors Oscar. Like it doesn't, I don't think it favors Lando. It also proves my point. I said this on Sports Night last week. Go check it out. I did say this. The driver who's going to come out on top at the end of this year in a year that's so tough is the one that's going to pick up the points when others make mistakes.
Yeah.
This weekend, it was Oscar Piastri, it was Max Verstappen, and I think that's all I can say.
And can I just say to that point, we do have to give a little bit of props to Lando's recovery because he did come from 10th to 4th, and he was fighting those Ferraris. Both, he was fighting Hamilton back and forth for that 6th place, and then he was fighting Charles, and give it a couple more laps, he probably would have taken it.
But speaking of Charles, I've been saying it all season. I'm like, Charles is going to get a podium. Charles is going to get a podium. And guess what he finally did? He got a podium.
The tire whisperer has gotten a podium.
They asked him, was it hard to manage the tires? And he went, no.
I mean, like we said it like a couple times already, clean air is everything. So
especially on a track like this.
All right, let's move on. There have been a lot of rumors going into this weekend that Max Verstappen is to leave Red Bull. What are your thoughts?
Last year. That happens every
time.
But specifically
this year, there's been a lot of comments also from Helmut Marko. He told the media in Bahrain that Max is leaving. He thinks Max is leaving, which coming from inside in the team, that's crazy. What do you guys think? Is it feasible, and how does it affect the grid going to 26?
I mean, if I see it, I won't be surprised. But if I don't see it, I also won't be surprised. I don't know what to expect anymore because everything is always like, oh my gosh, drivers randomly changing. But I also you're talking the other day how it's like he might be going to Mercedes because they haven't confirmed George's contract. contract. But they're not going to confirm that because they don't want George to stop being a team player or anything and be like, oh, the team doesn't care about me for the rest of the season if they announced it right now. And
So to that point, George said, I forget where it came from. George said somewhere, it was like, oh, it would be totally understandable if they want to sign Max because obviously he's a 4-time world champion, which is completely understandable. He's a 4-time world champion. But again, George is flat out saying there, it's like, you'd be willing to risk my seat because Kimmy's the future. And look what he's doing here.
Kimmy's the next Max.
And what he's showing, I believe it. In the beginning of the season, with all these rookies, you were like, okay, I'm going to wait to see what you have. Kimmy's showing.
I was a little like, the fact that he's younger than me, that got me. I was so upset about it. I was kind of like, I hope no, he's not gonna do that well.
You're like, Ollie's 2 weeks younger than me, and I'm just like, no.
It's crazy. They're so young and they're expected to be so good. But to your point, he came in as the next Max Verstappen. In what world does Toto Wolff not want the Max Verstappen and the next Max Verstappen?
Exactly.
Even with George Russell's consistency, I just don't see it.
Kimmy's been in the top 10 every race but Bahrain, and he was 11th. So I'm like, he's performing how they want him to perform.
Yeah.
I just don't know if Max would be a better fit for any team that isn't Red Bull. Like, I know Alex Albon's talked about it. The car is like built for Max's driving style. It's very sharp. It's like sensitivity turned up.
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, you have a 4-world champion. You're going to build it towards that.
I don't think he would want to go. I don't think there's a team that would suit him.
Without Max.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry.
I just don't think he would go anywhere else.
How is Red Bull even together still? Like, how is this team functioning as a team? Let's be honest. Look at the past year and a half. How is this team still functioning? The second seat is consecutively half of the team's problems and the only thing keeping this team functioning. Let's be honest.
And even looking at like what we're saying with Helmut Marko being like, yeah, Max is gonna leave, and then Horner being like, no, he reaffirmed his commitment. Like, how are they even working on like the inside?
He said the concern is great that Max could leave. If the concern is great,
then do
we talk about like the constructors and stuff. We go, oh, it's McLaren, Max, Mercedes, and Ferrari. We don't ever say Red Bull. We say Max.
Max.
There is no Red Bull. Really.
I believe it was 60, or no, it was higher than that. It was like 2 points
scored
less
87
of the entire
of 89 points. Red Bull has scored this year come from Max Verstappen.
Yeah. So it's like at this point there is no team.
That's actually like dead last.
I just don't think that he really would like fit in well with any other team, and I don't think he'd really want to go because they're so committed. Like we need to make sure Max is our priority. So I don't feel like he'd give that up to go like compete with another like young racer who's like the next Max.
Plus, with his family life that's been kind of coming out, that puts another factor into play. And I think that's a big factor towards the beginning of the season that everybody was talking about, like, oh, he's going to have a kid.
Yeah.
Are we going to see him leave within a month?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
First
he
of all,
said he would leave when he had a kid.
He said he wanted to have a kid after he left, and people took that as him saying, okay, now he's going to have a kid.
And retire.
I think it's a fair point. I don't want to get into all of this because I think we keep it to the track stuff, but it's a fair point that Kelly, his girlfriend, is much older than him. And we have a clock. So we'll put that out there, but let's move on. I want to talk about F1 qualifying. Are we becoming too dependent on qualifying? Because the past races, besides this one, so 4 out of 5 have been won by your pole sitter. So what do you guys think? Too quality dependent?
I mean, kind of, because like you think of like other tracks, like Monaco, that's a quality track.
Yeah.
Like you get pole, you're most likely to win the race. And like, as you just said, we just saw that a bunch. But I'm also like, I don't want them to change it just because when they change things, they mess it up. So if they were to change up qualifying, it would make it worse probably somehow.
Yeah.
And I don't need to deal with that.
I think it also gives teams a really good way to see the one lap speed versus the race speed. It's something, it's a different spectacle than what we've been seeing. I feel like in the past couple of years that quali is a different race. Like you want to sit down and you want to watch quali. And it's not something you've always wanted to do in the past, let's be honest. You want to sit because we saw, holy crap, if you watch the end of this recent quali, it was insane. You saw them bam, 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 and then they come in, they come out, bam, 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 record after record after record. When has that happened in the history of this?
Some weekends I would prefer to sit down and just watch quali, like the actual race, because I'm like, okay, it's fine. Like there's like fireworks and all this stuff, but like some of the best driving gets done in quali.
I know
I
some
agree.
people, and they're like, I didn't watch quali. I'll only watch the race. And I go, what are you doing? You gotta watch all of it.
Yeah.
It's much more exciting if you do all that.
Yeah. I think also it's not a format issue. It's not something I need the FIA to change. I
No.
think it's a car issue. The cars are
Yes.
too fast, and they're very dependent on clean air. They're very dependent on tires, on management, and it makes the races a little bit more boring. I do want to raise the question, if they were to do something about it, look at the calendar, see where we could change. Would you be opposed? Would you think it'd be harmful to F1 to get rid of some of those tracks you're talking about, Monaco, Spa in Belgium, things like that?
I've heard
that
they
are
might
not.
want to get rid of Imola, and I'm like, no, don't get rid of Imola.
please
I
don't.
think like the historic tracks, I'd rather have the historic tracks over some random new track. But like, I get how we want to bring in new tracks, and like they're rotating Which one are they rotating?
I think they're rotating the Netherlands.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Netherlands.
Spa.
Yeah, and it's like,
Is it Spa?
Yeah, they're gonna rotate it in Spa, I think.
I
The
definitely
Orange
know.
Army
I
will
was
not be
gonna say,
happy.
I definitely know it's
Orange Army will not be
Netherlands.
happy.
Yeah.
They would
But-
honestly have to like pry Monaco out of my hands. And like
Yeah.
I'm assuming
I
like the
feel
drivers
Like,
too.
because Monaco technically
Monaco
isn't a track that meets regulation,
No.
but
No.
they allow it
Plus-
because of its historic.
Plus,
Yeah.
when you think this new gen of cars, we're seeing obviously the overhaul of regulations in 2026.
Yeah.
We're going to see the cars get slightly smaller, just slightly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
But-
it'll help.
Yeah.
It should make it slightly easier to race in tracks like Monaco, even other street tracks like Jeddah, like our other historic tracks, like we said, like Spa. Like I think we're going to see a slight easier way to race in these tracks, and I think it'll bring another slightly different aspect to the qualifying race form.
Yeah.
But I don't think we need to get rid of them because I think that's a charm to these tracks that the
Yeah.
other tracks don't have.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that like through just making a more equal playing field for all the teams in general, it'll just get more competitive. So like, their wind tunnel
Agreed.
reductions they're putting on teams based on performance, like that could do really great things, not just for like the actual races, but also for like quali, because then we can have teams from like the back of the grid actually maybe getting closer to the podium, which
Crazy.
Yeah. Did you see Alex on the podium for the parade
he was like,
of the
"Oh,
presentation?
yeah,
He goes, "Let me
get
go
up
to the
here."
podium." But anyways, we talked about a lot of interesting rumors. It's only been 5 races, but we all have some pretty interesting takes. So we're gonna head to the board. Give me your best hot take. Could be team related, could be driver related, could be track related, whatever your heart desires. Christina, I think you're first.
Okay, so my hot take, I'm starting a little early. I know we're only 5 races in, but I'm talking about Cadillac for next year.
Ooh.
I think they should put 2 rookies in the car. Is this probably a delusion? Yes. Do I care? No. I want Paul Aaron and Dino Bogdanovich in that car together.
Ooh.
Why?
Ooh.
Because why not? I mean, there's the Alpine Reserve to F1 driver pipeline. You've got Oscar and Jack. Paul is an Alpine Reserve driver. Put him in the car. I said what I said. Put him in the car. I want to see it. And I was like, we'll throw Dino in there. We already know they work great together because they were teammates in Prema. They're good friends. They'll have a great team dynamic. I want 2 rookies in that car just for fun. We put more rookies in the cars. I don't need an old driver. Don't bring Checo back. 2 rookies. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know, man.
That's definitely a take.
I think it's fair to say at least 1 rookie.
Yes.
The problem I think they're going to run into is that they're a new team, so they probably should have at least some form of driver that's coming
Yeah, but I want fun.
over. The
Yeah,
problem
but they
is
want a
who?
winning car.
Like, they
A little
want a
bit.
winning team. But also, to Christina's point, who are you going to? Who on the current grid or someone who's experienced who's left the grid is going to come back to that team? Because I can't think of a
At
single.
least put Paul Aaron in
we
the car.
obviously know that there's been
At
talks
least
of
Paul.
Checo.
Oh God,
No.
no.
And as much as I don't like it, I don't like it.
No,
But
no,
we know
no,
that there's
no.
been talks of it.
Yeah.
Let's all be honest. We've heard the talks.
I wouldn't
I mean,
hate it.
yeah,
Heard
they've
it.
also said they're going to put an American in the car, but like, who
Yeah,
would that
we've heard
be?
that.
I mean, I
Someone in the car.
understand your point, putting like 2 rookies that could lead to really great chemistry because sometimes they bring in like a more experienced driver and they're like just not at their peak anymore and they're not going to perform. So we've
Yeah.
seen it where like new teams come in and regardless of who they put in that seat, it's hard. Like it's just
Yeah.
hard to be a new
And
team
Paul
on the
and
grid.
already get along. We can put someone else in, but like,
You
put
want to
Paul in the car.
hear? You want to hear my rookie, but a little more experience in racing? Pato O'Ward.
I've heard that, but
I
would
love the
he
IndyCar take. I love
love Pato O'Ward.
Cadillac.
Yeah.
I'd be
I
fine with
love
someone from
Pato
IndyCar.
O'Ward.
I would love for Cadillac to
Paul
come in and
Aaron.
finally bring
I
someone
think-
After
over
he
from
wins
IndyCar.
the
I
500
think we
though.
need more like
Yeah.
He needs to win
So,
the
like,
500
that's
before
the
we
thing.
do
I
that.
don't think Pato's going to leave until he wins the 500.
hopefully this year.
Hopefully this year. All right, Sydney.
Am I up?
You're up. I don't know
Alright.
if it's you or Parker. I hope it's you. I think it's Parker.
Oh, it's
Oh.
Parker.
No, it's Parker.
All right.
Sorry.
Got my
She's
hopes
a
up.
liar, guys.
I'm a liar.
Okay.
Ugh.
My hot take is that Red Bull is just the problem. I don't think it's a second driver. I
Right.
think
I agree
that
with
Red
that
Bull
one.
was built for Max. Alex was talking about it. He was saying it's like basically like playing a game with increased sensitivity on the mouse. You're so tense when you're turning. You're literally just like, oh no, I'm gonna mess up. So I think that the car being built for Max is the reason that like we're never gonna have a second driver who is going to succeed in that seat. We had Checo for a bit. He was like really team player for a moment, and then it fell apart. I just think that Red Bull as a team is just not going to function well, regardless, with their dynamics, with the people in power. So I don't think it's second driver's fault.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
I agree.
I agree.
Who's
Yay.
no?
The
It's
only-
Red Bull
yeah.
is the issue.
Yeah. The only
Red
thing I
Bull
can
has a
say, I would never put any blame on either of them, but I
No.
think that there's more issue than just the car. I think there's a bit
Yeah.
of a culture issue where it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
why are we
Definitely.
throwing people in 3 races in to compete against
Yeah.
4-time world champion Max Verstappen in a car that we all know is kind of built for him?
Yeah.
So
Can we also see the difference between when Liam went from here and then look at how happy he is?
Yeah.
How
Happy?
how happy he is over at VCarb. Like just the difference
Yeah.
in like emotion he has.
Yeah.
Like that takes a toll on
Well, all
somebody.
that
and you
stress
can
is
tell.
gone. He doesn't have any more stress of
Exactly.
trying to
But you
perform to
can
max.
see just the environment
Mhm.
that has, and
Yeah.
that's so bad because especially when you're coming up from VCarb, where it seems like such a loving, warm
Yeah.
family, and then you get thrown into this.
Yeah.
Whatever this is.
Whatever, yeah,
and then
whatever
you get
that
thrown
is.
into this.
And it's been like a consistent problem. You can see like the increase in like one, just like the mental health of like the second driver. The second they get out, they're like, oh my goodness, I'm free.
Free.
Yeah.
But also like their performance. Like Alex flourished when he was in like a back of the grid car. Like he's doing much
Yeah.
better as a driver, even though he doesn't have like the technological capabilities of that car.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You're up this
Now
time.
I'm up.
This time for real.
All right. My hot take. I think that Ferrari can become a second championship contender by the summer break. I'm saying second because obviously McLaren is going to be taking away that because they're just running ahead with it. So I think though that they can jump ahead of Red Bull and Mercedes by this point because obviously they're bringing upgrades race by race. And I think that once Lewis gets comfortable with the car and they kind of get their footing underneath them a little bit more, we saw it with Leclerc's podium this week. I think that they might have a little bit of a better chance and kind of get that second constructors right there where they were last year pretty much. So that's my hot take.
it.
Yeah.
I like it.
You think they can only stop at second, or do you think they
I don't
eventually could have a
think-
fight for first?
Yeah.
I don't think
I
that they're
don't think
going to be
anybody
able
has
to
a
fight for first.
No.
According
As
to
much as
Fred
I
said they
love,
could, or is he talking next year?
Fred
Next
also
year.
seemed very confident in the beginning of this season,
Yeah,
and look at what has
Fred's-
happened. So,
Yeah.
as much as I love this team, and I'm a big Ferrari fan, and I love both of these drivers,
Mhm.
I think that they came into the season way too optimistic,
Mhm.
and then I think that hurt them because
Yeah.
obviously I
Yeah.
said this in Sports Night the other day. I think that they were celebrating way too hard when they were getting mid.
Yeah.
I don't want to say mid like positions, but when
Mhm.
they were getting
Yeah.
4th, 5th, 6th.
I mean, you
Because
saw
that's as far
Charles's
as they
reaction
could.
Yeah.
yesterday.
Oh my god, they
yeah.
said they didn't think a podium was attainable because
Yeah.
when you saw Piastri, Max, when you saw Russell,
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't think
I
that
mean,
either.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
Charles was shocked.
yeah, and I mean, even Lewis was saying though that he's really disappointed in where he
Yeah.
is right now. But I think he needs to gain that confidence. But once he does, I think we'll be a whole different team.
Because that
I
car
like
it.
did come alive at the end of like
Yes.
Yeah.
it was insane.
Yeah.
Like the speed that Charles
Mhm.
had on that.
Yeah,
So-
he was pulling moves. Brian was complimenting
Yeah.
him. He
Oh,
was
yeah.
going,
I
thank you,
know.
Brian.
That's another thing. You can see like they're getting more comfortable. And if you compare that to the first, second race, it's a lot
Yeah.
different.
All right, my turn. If you've heard anything I've said until now, I fear this is not any kind of shocker. Oscar Piastri is the clear number 1 at McLaren, in my opinion. There's no doubt about it. He is more talented, I think, than Lando. He's won 3 of the 5 races so far this year. He doesn't make as many mistakes. He just quite simply, in my opinion, is better. Now, some people are like, oh, that's not a hot take, Marina. That's just normal. Everybody's been saying that. My hot take, though, specifically, is that he's going to be favored as the number 1 driver like Mercedes never does in the very near future, probably halfway through this year, if not sooner.
I agree.
No, I agree.
I saw the faces of Stella and Brown when they were in the pit waiting for that podium. I saw a screen capture of their faces. They looked worried for the future to come.
Yeah. I think they are.
And so I
think they're
don't doubt that
genuinely worried.
could happen.
I think they're genuinely worried about Lando if this happens, because I think that puts him in a really tight spot. How far does the spiral, the negative snowball, go for Lando Norris if they're out there 1-2 and they're like, you got to let Lando go because Max is breathing out his neck?
They've built
somebody else for that
they've built
matter.
this car around Lando for the past 5-6 years at this point, once they've realized that this is who they're sticking with and what's happening.
That would really get to you too. You're seeing this guy who he wasn't really on your radar. You didn't see him as a threat. You were worried about Max, and all of a sudden he's coming in and clearly one-upping you. That would get to you for sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know how the team's gonna.
All right, we're moving on. I have concocted a little game for y'all. So I'm gonna put 3 stats, fun facts-ish about a driver. You have to tell me who the driver is. He is on this year's grid.
How fast do you think I'm going to get them this time?
You have to put her on a 5-second delay.
You got a 5-second delay.
She made it harder because I got them too fast last time.
That's too good.
I told her to put 10 and she put 3. Whose fault is that?
All right, well, there's 5 this time, so hopefully not too quick.
Oh,
All right, let's look at
geez.
the first one.
I can't read.
He was part of the Red Bull Junior Driver Program. He's won 4 races, all with the same team, and he's driven for 5 different F1 teams.
It's not. No.
Wait, 4
So you
races
said-
in F1?
He's won 4 F1 races.
Was
Okay,
his
so it's
time on
not
the
Pierre.
teams? Was it long-term time, or is it
So he was only in the program.
A lot of them. Most of them were longer, at least a couple years.
Okay.
Who was in the program?
Carlos, right?
Oh. Is it Carlos?
It is
Oh,
Carlos.
dang it. I was thinking about him and I was
Because I
like,
knew you were
no.
thinking
I was
of
like,
him.
you
saw my
I
face.
couldn't
I
remember
remember he
the
was in,
5 teams got me a
The
little.
He was in the development program.
He was in Red Bull's development program.
Yeah.
I
Then
couldn't remember he was in the
raced for
development.
Renault,
I knew he was in.
Toro
Renault, I forgot
Renault,
about
Rosso,
Renault,
Renault,
yeah.
McLaren, Ferrari, Williams.
Yeah, I forgot he was in the
I didn't
program.
know-
I knew he
I
was in
didn't know
the
he was-
junior
I
team.
I knew
That's
he
what I
was in
was trying to
Toro.
remember.
I
I was
just
like,
couldn't remember if
wait.
he was in.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
He made his F1 debut in 2016. He was a Mercedes reserve driver, and he is a race winner.
George?
No, George
Nope.
made in
Wait,
2019.
he's currently? Oh no, he was.
He was a Mercedes.
And
Let's
it's
think
not
about
Valtteri.
the Mercedes
It's
reserve
not.
drivers.
This one's really hard.
The only thing I can
in
think
my
of is
opinion.
Fred, but he's a current reserve.
Yeah.
I was thinking Bottas, but he's not a current driver.
2016.
It's not
Remember,
Hulkenberg.
he didn't make his debut in 16.
Top team or lower team?
Lower team.
Lower team.
Okay.
This is
It's
gonna
not-
kill
I
me.
feel like it's the one
Alex?
we're forgetting
No,
was a
that was-
McLaren reserve.
I just can't think of the
The
drivers
Mercedes
right now.
reserve.
reserve, not a McLaren reserve.
Oh my god, Mercedes.
I don't know
yo.
Mercedes reserves.
There's 2.
There's too many.
There's too many.
There has been a lot.
Okay, do you need a
It's
hint?
not going to be like Lance Stroll or
You
something
need a
crazy
hint.
like that,
No.
right? Yes, hint.
Sure.
Hint. He has also been teammates with Checo.
And it's not Lance Stroll.
Esteban?
Is it Esteban?
Esteban.
Okay.
Good job.
So when Esteban left the
they were
sport for a
teammates
year, he took a
at
1-year hiatus, and he
Yeah.
was a Mercedes
Point.
reserve.
I forgot about
Total
that.
Wolff saved his
they were at-
career.
'cause They were at Point, right?
I
Yeah.
love Esteban.
Okay.
I don't know. If
I'm
we should,
indifferent about
Next.
that.
I don't know if we should be in this.
Yeah.
If you don't get this, if certain people don't get this, I'm me. Okay. He made his F1 debut at just 21 years
Oh,
old.
is it Lewis?
He was on the cover of
Wait, no.
Vogue, and his average finish position in 2025 is P5.
Charles?
Yes.
Yeah, Charles.
Yeah.
He was on the cover of Vogue?
He was on the
Yeah.
cover of
Yeah.
Vogue. That's why I
I
said
don't
if
Both
y'all
of the
don't get
Ferrari
this-
guys have
I
been on Vogue.
Of course.
It's
I mean,
kind of
I'm not
it was great.
surprised.
It's iconic. I
It
mean,
is
Ferrari and
Vogue.
Yeah.
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 So, all right.
That's why you said I should get this.
Yeah. Well, the table.
So Max Verstappen, or no?
No. He
He
went
went from
straight from F3 to F1.
There's other drivers that did
He
that.
holds the
Kimmy?
record
No,
for the
Kimmy skipped
youngest,
F3.
for the youngest rookie to be on the podium, and he's known for being strong in the wet.
And it's not Max Verstappen.
It is not Max Verstappen.
Okay.
So all those clues are Max. Who else skipped F2?
One other person.
I know it's not George because he won F2.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so eliminate everyone who won F2 or rookies because all the rookies
And it's
came
not
from
Kimmy
F2.
because he skipped F3.
It's not George, Charles, Oscar.
It's not Lando.
I have them for something else.
Do we know what Piastri
That
was?
eliminates
He
literally half the grid,
It's
and I
not
can't
Oscar.
think
Oscar
of it.
won
F2,
F2.
yeah.
I just
So you've eliminated Oscar,
George.
Lando,
Alex.
George, Alex. I was
No,
trying to
he
go
was
by
in
team.
F2.
I
but-
have to
That's why I
go
said
by
we're
team to
eliminating
make
him.
this make sense.
Yeah.
We're cutting Alex.
Youngest rookie on the podium.
George,
And it's not
Lando.
it wouldn't be Fernando.
Do you want to hit?
Whoa.
Oh God, I know.
I'll let you run. If not, you let me know if you want.
I
to.
can't
I think
remember
it's a
like
little
a
difficult.
So I
country of
fear I've forgotten what the
origin.
grid looks like.
We
I
have to
think
use the
country
teams.
of
Let's go by
origin would
team.
give
Would that
you
give it
the
away?
answer.
Okay, let's think.
We have talked about him today.
I think I have him in my head and I just can't think.
I have him. I just top.
We've
bottom.
talked about Stroll.
Bottom team.
We've talked about who have we talked about
It's
on the
not-
team?
Youngest
We've
rookie
talked
on the
about Hulkenberg,
podium.
but no.
He didn't. He wasn't
Esteban
in. He wasn't in F3.
You said it. You said it.
I said Stroll. Are we
Yeah,
saying
it's Lance
Stroll?
Stroll.
Okay,
How did you not say
Okay, I
Lance
thought
Stroll?
somebody
this
said
morning.
Stroll earlier.
No, we
I
mentioned
said
Stroll
Stroll
earlier, but you
earlier.
No,
didn't
no,
say
no.
it for
Like
this.
somebody said
Oh.
Stroll for this, and I
Yes,
passed
for
right
a
by.
different, but for a different
Ah.
one, I think.
He's born in
All right.
2000s.
He was born in the 2000s. He has less than 100 career points, and he won Rookie of the Year in Formula 2.
Oscar.
Oscar.
Oh wait, was this okay? Who won?
Oscar doesn't have less than
was it
100 points.
the-
He almost
was
had
it
100
the-
this
Bortoletta?
year.
Was it the
What?
Lando,
Bortoletta?
George,
No.
Alex year when they were all rookies? Are you guys like?
So
Are y'all
it's
getting
not-
me?
Well,
It
they were
wasn't any of
born
that.
in
They were all F2.
1999 and
Yeah.
things like that. Who else is? So, who else is
Who's the baby?
under 25?
Rookie of the year in F2.
He's not a rookie.
Can we get a hint?
He's not a. He's not a
He's
rookie.
not a rookie.
How long ago was this rookie?
He's
F2?
been in F1 for several years. He is at a top team.
Okay.
No, he was not born.
No,
He was
Charles
already
has more
born.
than 100 points.
Yeah, I know. I was like, wait, what am I saying?
He's out of
Um,
top team.
You're forgetting
Wait,
someone
is
quite
it
obvious.
Kimmy?
No.
No,
No, he
it's
has-
not.
Ollie?
No.
No. What'd you say?
Yuki?
Yes. Yuki
Oh.
Tsunoda.
Wait, he won Rookie of the Year.
I thought
In
Yuki
F2,
was.
yeah.
I guess
He
yeah.
was
He's
Rookie
not
of the
that
Year
old.
in F2. He was born in 2000.
For some reason, I think he's like old.
Yeah.
So okay, because the reason I put this on here was because I was dead set sure you're gonna go through all of the rookies first, which is exactly what you did
Mhm.
because they're all 05, 06 babies
Yeah.
now, which blows my mind.
Crazy.
But speaking
Forgot
of
how old-
rookies, do you want to
The 06 just gets me.
Speaking of rookies, at the end of the year, there's the Rookie of the Year. It's way too early, but I do want to quick rapid fire. Tell me what you're thinking for Rookie of the Year. Who stood out to you, Christina?
I'm gonna say my joke and then I'm gonna be serious. Well, as Kimmy said, it's obviously gonna be Fernando Alonso. Okay, I think it's gonna be between Kimmy and Ollie. Kimmy's been in the top 10 all but one race. Ollie's been performing pretty well.
Yeah, I feel like Kimmy's like obviously he's in a good car, so that does give him like we're looking at him through a better lens. I just feel like his consistency, like he's been in the points like pretty consistently. Like he'd only went to like 11th once. So in my head, he's like showing consistency in the car, and I think that would give him like Rookie of the Year.
I liked your guys' good parts of that. For the
Yeah.
other side of that, for the worst parts, because I'm going to touch on those. I think Gabby's a bottom performer. As much as I think
Yeah.
that he had potential,
As much as I
especially
hate
as
to
an
say it.
Well,
Especially as
rookie
an-
of the year
especially-
tops, not
I know, but if we're gonna go to the other end, like Rookie of the Year, I completely agree with you
Yeah.
guys. But if we're gonna touch on the rookies, like the rookies are just not.
They haven't been performing that well. Like that's also like expected, you know, you're coming into
Yeah.
this, but it's also there's
I
been
say-
He is in a
few
state.
races
I say
to
there's a couple
find-
ways that
yeah.
if you come out of F2, there's a couple ways you can go. You can either go like Charles, George, and Oscar, and you can go
Yeah.
right into F1. You can go like Nick and Mick, and you
Oscar
can
took a
try.
year
You
off.
can try.
You can try.
your luck. You can try your luck and go right out, or you can end up like Felipe and Theo, and you can kind of just sit and wait, and that's
Sit
what
and
happens.
See what
Mhm.
happens.
And
I think I agree with y'all. I think Kimmy's a big one because Kimmy has performed.
Yes.
He's
Yeah.
up there with people that have been consistently in F1 for years and years and years with Pierre, with Max, with Oscar, with George. But I think we're sleeping on Isaac Hadjaw because he
Yes.
had
Yeah.
no
Completely agree.
expectations coming in and he's beating
Yeah,
his
no.
teammates. I think he's performing really well.
Yeah.
I completely
Yeah.
agree with that.
I low-key think that a lot of our rookies will be leaving near like next year. I think they're
Oh.
gonna bring
Ooh,
that's
I
my
think we're
hot
cycling.
take.
I think
That's my hot
I
take
think
is
you
that
made a
we're
lot of
gonna
hot
cycle.
takes that should have replaced your hot take.
Yeah, I know I'm full of hot takes today, but no, I think that we're gonna cycle through them a little bit.
Well, I liked them all. They were all great hot takes. It was a great show. But unfortunately, that is all we've got today at 360 Sports. Tune in tomorrow. I think it's hockey, so stay tuned.